Well, it is Wednesday in Holy Week, and I'm so glad that you've been joining us for these short devotionals through the days of Holy Week leading up to Good Friday, and then obviously Easter Sunday, Resurrection Day. Today, as we continue our journey through the Gospel of Matthew, as we have done here at First Christian since the beginning of the year, we find ourselves in Matthew chapter 26. Jesus is becoming more and more blatant uh, about what he is going to do and what is getting ready to take place. He's mentioned his death and resurrection many times before, but at the beginning of this chapter, he says that the Son of Man will be delivered up to be crucified. That's pretty in your face. And so we are truly in the final countdown before the cross. There's two stories I want to pick up on here in Matthew 26 with you today. Matthew 26, I want to start reading then in verse 6. And when Jesus was in Bethany, at the home of Simon the leper, a woman came to him, having an alabaster flask of very costly, fragrant oil. And she poured it on his head as he sat on the table. But when his disciples saw it, they were indignant, saying, "Why this waste? For this fragrant oil might have been sold for much and given to the poor." But when Jesus was aware of it, he said to them, "Why do you trouble the woman? For she has done a good work for me. For you have the poor with you always, but me you do not have always. For in pouring this fragrant oil on my body, she did it for my burial. Assuredly, I say to you, wherever the gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be told as a memorial to her." Verse 14 continues. Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What are you willing to give me if I deliver Jesus to you?" And they counted out to him 30 pieces of silver. So from that time, he sought opportunity to betray him. We see in this narrative this amazing act of devotion and worship, and the ultimate act of betrayal. In this woman, later on in John's gospel, we're told that this woman is actually Mary, the sister of Lazarus. And she shows this great and extravagant act of praise and worship to Jesus. Other gospels tell us that this flask might have been worth 300 denarii. People smarter than I have figured out that that's about a year's wages in today's money. And it's poured out lavishly on the Savior, on the Master. One of my dear friends, Jacob Taylor, preached a message a couple weeks ago about this act of devotion. And it's interesting that it is the sister of Lazarus. And if you remember in the story of Lazarus over there in John 11, they don't want to roll the stone away from Lazarus' tomb. The King James said, "By now he stinketh," right? But Christ rises Lazarus from the grave. And then here later on, we see Mary fill the room with the aroma of goodness and life. And this is a metaphor, of course, for what Jesus does for us. He replaces the stench of death with the aroma of abundant life. Jesus says that Mary's act of devotion here is preparing him for his burial. This is a prophetic witness that Christ will die, right? It's a great truth that Jesus has joined us in our humanity. Yes, he was born and joined us in infancy. He joined us through the pubescent years and into adulthood. Jesus has laughed as we have laughed. He has cried and wept and mourned and grieved. He's rejoiced as we have rejoiced. And Jesus will die. Jesus, in fact, has experienced even more what it is to be human than we have, because Christ has actually entered into death. And this act of devotion from Mary is the preparation for the work that Christ will do for us on the cross. At the end of our narrative here in this reading in Matthew 26, we see Judas' betrayal. Judas' betrayal for 30 pieces of silver. History tells us that that is the cost of a slave in Jesus' day. What can we learn from this narrative? What can we find out from this story? Well, one thing we can learn is that the cost of devotion to Jesus is great. Jesus said things like, if you want to be my disciple, sell all you have and follow me. Take up your cross, Jesus would say, and follow me. If you want to gain your life, you have to lose it. If you want to be the ruler of all, you have to become the servant of all. And in this lavish gift, this woman, Mary, pours out all that she has on Jesus. So we learn from this story that devotion to Jesus can be very costly. And we also learn that betrayal doesn't pay off that much. That Judas, in his greed and desire to be number one, betrays Jesus, betrays the one that loves him, betrays the one that in just a chapter from here will offer him the cup. This is my blood shed for you. Offer him the bread. This is my body broken for you. Jesus is offered to all of us freely. He offers himself to us freely, and then it's up to us to decide what we will do with Jesus. My desire is to pour out my whole life lavishly on the God who has been so good to me in Jesus Christ. Not to sell him short or sell him out for the temporary things and ways of this world. I love what Jesus says about this great gift. That wherever the gospel is preached, this story will be told in memorial of her. And here we are, some 2,000 years later, telling this story of great worship, great praise, and great devotion as a model of how Christ desires for us to live our lives in devotion to him. So as Christ has willingly emptied himself, poured himself out as an offering for the whole world, what more can't we do but to pour our own selves out for his cause? As the Apostle Paul would say, to offer our bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to the Lord, which is our reasonable service. Thank you for joining me today. Tomorrow, we will be at First Baptist Church at 6:30 a.m. for a Maundy, Thursday community service. Good Friday morning, we'll be at Hammer Memorial United Methodist Church at 6:30. And then Good Friday evening, we'll be right here at First Christian at 7 p.m. Please make plans to join us then. God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.